you do?
Okay, hang up. That's it. Come on.
Hello?
All right. What's up, everybody? I hope everybody's having a good bid term so far. So I guess my whole goal here is for you guys to take away one thing from these next 20 minutes that we got. So first thing I want to talk about is adaptable games. So what I mean by adaptable is that you can use these with any age. What I mean by that is anoban to bohok. I don't teach matayom, so maybe they would work, but you'll have to try that one out for yourselves. And then you can also use like different materials to kind of plug in to the game, and it'll work the same way. So first game I want to talk about is telephone. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to write them on down. So telephone, we play this, hopefully you guys have played this game before. Get the class into 2 or 3 or 4 lines depending on the class size and how many people you want in each group. And there's a couple of different ways I play this. So with anoban and bonung, I usually have, I'll say something to the kid, and then the kid will then, like whisper down the line, and then the kid at the end will either have to say whatever it is to me or the other co-teacher, or they will have to find something on the ground. So if you're playing with phonics, you can put a bunch of the letters on the ground, say the letter, goes down the line, and then they have to try and find it. That works well with anoban kids. That's an easy game for them to pick up. To take that game another step further, what I've done is, instead of saying the letter name, so if you're playing with phonics, instead of saying A, they would have to write the A on the back of the next person, and then they're practicing writing the letters. So that makes it a little bit harder. To take it another step, you could, or what I've done, so this is for maybe grades 4, 5, and 6. Whatever I say goes down the line, and then the people at the end have to go up and write it, and then the first person to write it and spell correctly wins. That game gets pretty intense. It's a lot of fun. Gets out their energy. And for that one, for the spelling aspect about it, usually I will have them, like, they're not done until they spell it correctly. And then usually there's one person in their line that can help them out and kind of shout out some stuff. So that's telephone, different ways to play that game to make it a little bit easier or a little bit harder. Next game I want to talk about is Secret Pass. So this game, I've played it with anoban all the way up to bohok, and I'm sure the Mateum kids would like it too. So you have your class, and you count them off 1s and 2s, and the 2 lines line up on either end of the classroom. And then usually I would play some like Q&A thing. So like 1 line would be question, 1 line would be answer, and then they would practice, like, say the question, say the answer, and then switch. And then we would go into playing the game. So Secret Pass, you've got your 2 teams. They're standing on either ends of the room, and their hands are behind their backs. And they're standing shoulder to shoulder facing the other team. And they pass something small behind their backs, and they can kind of fake it out. And then the other team has to try and guess who has it. So what I've done with anoban is we sing the good morning song, and then when the good morning song is over, the team passing stops, and then they separate, so there's space in between the kids. And then the other team, when they guess, they have to say the person's name and then ask them a question. So with anoban, it's always they say their name and then they ask, what is your name? And the person responds, my name is da da da, and then they show if they have it or not. If they and the team asking gets 3 guesses to play. So that one's probably one of my more popular games that I like to play with the kids. Instead of singing the Good Morning song, I usually do that with anoban and bonung, but anything higher than that, I'll just play music. Because singing the Good Morning song gets a little old sometimes. So yeah, that's Secret Pass. Next one I want to talk about is Four Corners. This game, the younger kids love this game. Usually when I play it, so with anoban, for example, I'll only do alphabet letters, and so they're standing in their 4 corners, or excuse me, one volunteer is standing in each corner, and they will hold up an A or B, and then I'll say A, and everybody runs, and I'll play it with anoban. I'll just leave it at that. I'll have the volunteers stand and hold the letters. I'll say letters. Everybody will run around, and then I'll have a volunteer come and say the letters. That's about as simple as that game will get. To bump it up to the next level, to make it a little more competitive, I will have the first person that runs to the correct letter or question or vocab card they're holding up, they then get to hold it. So the kids like doing that. And then for the older kid, for like grades 5 and 6, when we play 4 corners, we'll go outside and play it, and we'll just, space it out over the field that we have. And then they're really like running back and forth. And anytime you get to take a class outside and do some stuff, it's always fun. So going from 4 corners, say you have kids outside, one volunteer standing at each corner, holding up a thing. Then you have a 5th volunteer stand and hold like an alphabet, letter, or question or vocab. So you've got 5 people holding, and then you do the same thing. You keep calling out the A, B's, and C's, or have a volunteer call it out. And then you add another volunteer. So you've got started with 4, then 5, then 6, until you have the whole class. And then basically what we're playing now is zip, zap, zop. So I like to do that transition a lot because it's smooth and it keeps the kids flowing. So again, you start out with 4 corners, then you add a 5th volunteer until everybody is standing there holding a letter or a question. And from that, to add a little more competitiveness, a little more fun, so everybody's standing in a circle holding something. You take out one person and they're standing in the middle, and then that person then has to follow the energy around. So if like one person says A, then the person in the center would have to run to wherever the A is. Whoever's holding A would have to say another letter before they get tagged. And I played all these games with anoban to bohok, and they all really like them. They've all been gold mines so far. And they're easy. So the games, all you have to do is plug and chug either phonics or colors, animals. When I teach conversation, I have these little square questions written on them. So we use those whenever we talk about like questions and answers. So you can kind of use these games to plug and chug. What else? So anoban and bonung. I wanted to focus on these 2 grades because there's one, I really like working with the younger kids. I really like like reading their energies, and it's very playful all the time, and I don't know, I have fun with it. And So I like doing it, and my school is a Montessori school, so they have like a great philosophy and like pedagogy on teaching younger kids. So I wanted to share some of that, of like what my school does with you guys. So for those of you who don't know, Montessori is a style of education. It's a philosophy, so to speak. So it focuses on ages like 3 through 6. I think it's super young, but basically it's made up of two things. So one, giving the class free time. So the anoban classrooms here, they get about like 2 to 3 hours of free time a day, and that just kind of allows the kid to kind of, I don't know, like leisurely walk around the classroom, and they get to like do whatever they're interested in. But you got to set up that free time for them. And then with that, you have to give them stuff to do in their free time. So slowly they've built, like, they'll teach them like maybe 1 or 2 things a week, and then that slowly builds. So by now they have like maybe 25 or 30 different things that they like know they can do in their head, and then they'll just walk around during the free time and do whatever. And how, okay, so you've got the free time part of it. Then you've got, you need to meet the kid at their level and see where they're at and build off of that. And what's important here is, as teachers, we say like a million things, or like we say one thing a million different ways, right? But maybe by that millionth time, it'll finally have resonated and clicked with them. So I know this is me personally, I've tried not to attach myself to my teaching and instead just come in as a new day of like, what do these kids know? You know, I could have taught them the same question for a few months and they still don't get it, and that's okay. They're still learning. But you need to meet them at their level, because that's what you build off of. So you've got the free time, meeting them at their level, and then so in order to follow, so giving them free time, in order like to follow the kid around, that's really easy to do with like 1 or 2 kids in the classroom. When you've got like, 20 or 30 kids, how they do it is each thing that they learn each week has a worksheet attached to it, and then each student has their bins. So then they fill out the worksheet, put it in their bin, and then the teacher then goes and looks at the bin and sees what they're up to. Cool. So that's Montessori. And also another big thing with this is that the magic is in the materials. So my school has got a lot of materials. If you want to talk about Montessori materials, that's kind of like a separate subject. Let me know, because I'd love to tell you guys about what they do. But basically the materials, they're all hands-on. That's the one common denominator that they all have. The kids are like physically doing something with their hands. They're never like, there's not a lot of like critical thinking going on. The more you can keep their hands busy, the better they're going to behave, and the more you're going to be able to get to do with them. So going off of anoban and bo nung, I wanted to give you guys a couple of fillers. So what I mean by fillers is, the younger you get, or the younger age you teach, I feel like the more like fillers you need to have to keep them engaged. So you could have like an activity planned, but the kids are only going to pay attention for so long. Even in a game, like I can't play a game longer than like 10 or 15 minutes with anoban, because they get a little out of it. So some of the fillers that I've been talking about, one is coloring. Coloring's huge. Like it brings down their energy. It has them all focused together as a group too. And sometimes I'll just like bring in a coloring sheet, and everybody will just color for like 10 minutes. And you can like turn off the lights, throw on some music, make it a real chill atmosphere. And you can have like, coloring worksheets with a purpose too, where they're practicing their colors, but usually I don't do that. I just kind of let them color. That's one thing that I do. I'll always have like coloring sheets with me. Two, another good thing to do is, or that I've done that has worked, is when they're really energetic and they don't really know what to do because you don't know what to do. So when I number them off for a game, I'll always have them close their eyes or cover their eyes with their hands. And this really just helps me to bring down the energy in the room. And then I'll go off and I'll kind of touch them on their back and I'll say like 1, 2, 1, 2, whatever. But having the eyes closed, that's been a huge thing that has helped me out. Another thing when the class is getting super energetic and you need to like just calm them down and kind of gather everyone again is having everybody take a knee. So when everyone's kind of like running around, either like the transition didn't work well or I don't know, their energies are just all over the place. Have them take a knee and you take a knee with them. Don't also stand yourself. Like everybody takes a knee on the ground and then that brings down the energy like that. Like once all the kids are kind of kneeling, then you can kind of gather your own thoughts and then tell them clearly what you want them to do. And then that works. That's worked for me a lot of the time. So you've got coloring. That's huge. Always have a coloring worksheet with you, worksheets for the class. Have the students have their eyes closed when they're counting, when you're counting them off, excuse me. If the energy is getting really crazy, have them take a knee. So a couple of other things that I've done that have worked with just getting everyone on the same page, getting them to like buy into your teaching is I'll do a thunderstorm activity. I think most of you guys, this will ring a bell for you, but first I'll have the kids, they'll be sitting in a circle and I'll have them like rub their hands and then I'll have them snap. Then I'll do like little claps, big claps. And then I'll usually play with it. We'll like slap the ground or like get on our feet and stomp. But the whole point of this thunderstorm thing is to build up the energy and then bring it back down. And I'll take like maybe 5 or 10 minutes to do this. So however you want to build the energy, I'll usually do it with sound. So the louder and faster the sound, the more energy it is. And then the quieter and slower brings back down their energy. And that just gets everyone on the same page. That works really well. And it's fun to do too. Because I know when I'll be teaching sometimes and I'll get into this track of like, crap, I had this plan, now what do I do? And I'll forget it all. It's nice to have these like 5 or 10 minute things to kind of do while I'm getting myself gathered. Another good thing is that ASL thing that we all got from Clarence. The ASL phonics has been an awesome thing to do. To get everybody on the same page. Another thing I do to get their energies together is we'll breathe together. So this usually happens like when we're sitting in a circle, and the whole point of this is to get the class breathing together. Like if they do the motions, cool, but when you have everybody sitting in a circle breathing together, it really gets it really focuses the energy, and it's a good like community environment, and it's just all around good. Breathing's good to do together. So what I'll do is I'll like breathe in and then breathe out, or do some sort of like motion with my hands. And I'll do that for, I don't know, maybe just a few minutes. But that one's good to do because, yeah, it gets all their energies back on track. Another thing I'll do, So I'm throwing a lot at you guys. So, you know, if you get one idea, cool. If you get 10 ideas, awesome. Another thing I'll do, we'll be sitting in a circle and we'll pass a ball together. Real simple. It's a bigger ball, but you know, we'll just we'll just pass the ball back and forth. And I won't like say anything. I won't be teaching or singing a song. You know, we'll just pass the ball, and usually people will laugh, and it's a good time. And then from passing the ball in a circle, I'll lead that into saying the alphabet or counting. So we'll be in a circle, and I'll say 1, pass it. Person then says 2, and it goes on. And that works really well for the younger kids. To make that game a little bit harder and a little bit more towards the older ones, I'll have, instead of sitting, everyone will be standing. We'll use the same ball, and you have to throw it instead of roll it. And if you throw it and the person drops it, then you restart. So you have them in a circle, and they'll be like, A, B, C, oh, dropped, restart at A. And I'll usually give them like 3 or 4 chances. We have never made it full to 3 alphabet, but that's not what it's there for though. And then to take that game another step further is you can have questions. So first this game started off with just rolling a ball, and then you roll and say a letter or a number. Then you stand up, and if you pass the ball, if you drop it, you restart. And then instead of saying the alphabet or letters, you just ask questions. And it's okay if it's this. I've played it before where students will say, "How are you?" "I'm fine." "How?" And they'll just keep asking, "How are you? How are you?" That's okay. You know, I try and encourage them to say other questions, but as long as they're asking and answering, that's really all that's my goal. So another big thing with teaching anoban and bonung that I've noticed is that kids are going to copycat every single thing you do. And you can use this to your advantage. So obviously you want them thinking on their own, but at that age, I think it's kind of hard for them to think on their own. So whatever you do, they're gonna end up copycatting you. So how this helps me is it really makes me think about the planning a lot more. So I ask myself, like, what am I gonna do during this? Because if I'm just standing there not moving, saying stuff, then they're gonna do that. And anoban and bonung, they gotta move around. Like, they got a lot of energy. So keep that in mind. Like, whatever you're doing, they're just gonna copycat you. And then the last thing I want to leave you guys with is some advice that I got. So I taught back in the States for a little bit through school, and this teacher, I asked them the $1 million question, like, what advice do you have for a teacher? And he said, your kids are gonna be a direct reflection on how you are doing. And that's always stood with me. So I wanted to share that wisdom, that knowledge with the 1 or 2 people that are watching me right now. Thanks, guys. So yeah, that's about it. I hope everybody has a good midterm. Don't sleep too much. Don't watch too much Netflix. Try and get outside if you can. All right. Have a good one.